She stormed out of her house the moment she saw the excavator roll onto my land. "You can't build here," she screamed, waving her phone like a badge. I looked up from the blueprints, calm but annoyed. "It's not part of your HOA, Karen," I said, for a moment, then laughed. "Every house on this street follows our rules." Her tone was pure arrogance. I'd heard about her, the so-called neighborhood queen who fined people for parking slightly off-center. But this was my land, legally separated from their HOA border by one property line. I'd bought it cheap, planning to build a simple home for my daughter and me. Karen wasn't ready to accept that. She marched up to the workers and barked orders like she owned them. "Stop, I'll call the HOA president." One of my guys turned to me, confused. I nodded for him to keep going. The sound of the drill echoed through her shrieks. She started recording, narrating like a news anchor gone mad. "This man is trespassing on HOA property," she said to her phone. I just smiled, knowing she was digging her own hole. "Karen," I said quietly, "you might want to check the county map before yelling." She ignored me, dialing someone on speaker. "Yes, this is Karen. There's an illegal construction happening next door." She glanced at me with that smug look people wear when they think they're winning. But deep inside, I knew something she didn't. Because this land, my land, wasn't under her HOA. And soon, I'd build something she couldn't ignore. Something taller than her SUV, taller than her pride. Karen didn't stop after that day. She doubled down. The very next morning, she parked her shiny white SUV halfway on my dirt lot, blocking the cement truck. "You're not pouring anything until I get approval from the board," she yelled. The driver looked at me helplessly, but I just smiled. "Go ahead," I said. He revved the engine and started unloading concrete. Karen's jaw dropped. She stepped in front of the chute, arms crossed like she was guarding the White House. "I'm serious. You'll regret this." That's when I pulled out my phone and played the recording of my meeting with the county inspector. His voice echoed loud enough for her to hear. "This property sits outside the HOA jurisdiction." Her face twisted. "That can't be right," she muttered. "It's all one community." "Not anymore," I said. "The HOA tried to buy this lot last year, remember? But they never paid the taxes." She blinked, realizing I knew more than she thought. I'd done my homework. Every deed, every boundary line, every unpaid HOA lien. Her lips trembled, but she quickly masked it with fake confidence. "Fine," she hissed. "Then I'll have the sheriff handle it." She stormed off, phone glued to her ear again. My workers kept pouring the foundation while she shouted into the phone like she was calling the president. But I noticed something strange. Her voice got shaky toward the end. It wasn't anger this time. It was fear. She knew she'd just made a call she couldn't undo. Because the person she'd called wasn't the sheriff. It was someone else. Someone who was about to make things worse for her than she could ever imagine. An hour later, a black SUV rolled up. Not the sheriff's cruiser, but something with tinted windows and no county markings. Two men stepped out, wearing dark uniforms with fake badges that read Community Enforcement. Karen followed right behind them, grinning like she'd summoned the FBI. "Arrest him," she ordered. One of the men walked straight toward me, hand on his belt. I didn't move. "You boys got a warrant?" I asked. "Sir, this property is under HOA jurisdiction," the taller one said flatly. "That's funny," I replied, pulling a folded paper from my back pocket, "because the county says otherwise." I handed it over, a certified property deed, stamped and signed. The man glanced at it and hesitated. Karen leaned in, whispering sharply, Don't listen to him. He forged that. Her voice cracked mid-sentence. The man didn't respond, just looked at his partner, uncertain. That's when I noticed something odd. Their badges were plastic, not even metal. I took a slow step closer and said quietly, "You guys aren't real cops, are you?" The shorter one's face went pale. Before he could speak, Karen snapped, "They're with my HOA security team. We have full authority here." My workers had stopped what they were doing, phones already recording. The whole scene was being documented from 3 angles. I looked her dead in the eye. "Karen, impersonating law enforcement is a felony." Her grin twitched, but she didn't back down. "You think anyone's gonna believe you over me?" she said, voice shaking. "Oh, they will," I said softly, "because I used to train real officers to spot fake ones." Her face drained of color. For the first time, she realized who she was really dealing with. Karen took a step back, clutching her phone like a lifeline. "You're bluffing," she whispered. I didn't answer. I just pulled out my old ID card from the sheriff's department and held it up. The gold seal caught the sunlight, and her jaw dropped. The fake officers froze. One of them mumbled, "Ma'am, he's legit." Karen's confidence vanished. "Wait, I didn't know. I thought—" "You thought you could fake your way through everything," I cut in. "Now, take your security team and leave before I call the real sheriff." The 2 men didn't wait for her permission. They jumped back into their SUV and sped off, leaving a trail of dust behind. Karen stood there, humiliated, trying to piece together what had just happened. My workers chuckled quietly as they went back to their tasks. But I knew Karen wouldn't quit that easily. She had that kind of pride, the kind that burns hotter after being crushed. That evening, I noticed her standing at her window, staring at my half-built foundation. Even from across the fence, I could feel her anger. Later that night, I heard something outside, soft scraping, like metal against wood. I stepped out with a flashlight. The beam landed on her, Karen, unscrewing the boundary stakes I'd placed that morning. "Touch one more," I said firmly, "and you'll regret it." She froze like a deer in headlights. "You don't scare me," she muttered, dropping the wrench. "Good," I said, "because fear isn't what I want. Respect is." For a few seconds, we just stared at each other in the dark, the silence thick between us. Then she turned and walked away without a word. But as I looked around, I noticed something strange. One of my surveillance cameras was missing. And that's when I realized Karen wasn't done. She was planning something bigger. And this time, it wouldn't just be about property lines. The next morning, my security app sent me a motion alert. 3:17 a.m. The footage was blurry, but I could make out Karen sneaking around the corner of my lot, holding a flashlight and what looked like a crowbar. I paused the video, jaw tightening. She'd crossed the line, literally. I went out to check, and sure enough, one of my storage boxes had been pried open. Nothing was stolen, but my building permit folder was missing. That's when I knew exactly what she was up to. She wanted to report my build as unlicensed construction. By noon, a white HOA pickup truck pulled up. Clipboard guy in sunglasses stepped out, pretending to be some kind of government inspector. "We got a report about unpermitted work," he said. I didn't even let him finish. "Nice try," I said, showing my phone screen. The video of Karen breaking in. His face turned pale. "Sir, I didn't know." "Yeah, you did," I interrupted. "Tell Karen if she wants to play legal games, she should study the law first." That evening, I filed a report myself, with the real sheriff's office. I gave them everything, the video, timestamps, even the fake IDs from her so-called security team. The deputy who took my statement smiled faintly. "We've had complaints about her before," he said. "Looks like this time she went too far." For 2 days, Karen stayed quiet. Her curtains were shut. Her driveway empty. I almost thought it was over, until I came home one afternoon and saw something that made my blood boil. A massive sign stood right at the edge of her property, facing mine. "Illegal construction zone. HOA orders stop work immediately." She'd built the sign overnight, big enough to block my view of the street. My workers refused to continue until it was sorted out. I looked at that sign for a long minute, then smiled. "All right, Karen," I said under my breath. "If it's walls you like, let's talk about walls." That's when I decided I was going to build one so tall she'd never see over it again.